Hi, welcome to About Town, a program about the 169 towns in the state of Connecticut. Today we'll be speaking with a new state senator from 7 of them. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
Boucher.
Pleasure to be here today.
Okay. And your predecessor, Senator Friedman, was one of my favorite people, and she was my guest many times, and I hope we can do this again and again.
Oh, I share those sentiments completely. I think the entire district feels very warmly towards and has a great deal of respect for Senator Judy Friedman.
Yeah. She was able to get along with the guys up there in Hartford on any side of the issues. And she was able to still stand up for the most important things, and I think gather both Republicans and Democrats together in our caucus, our Fairfield County caucus, which was very important for a number of issues. And by the way, if I haven't congratulated you, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
It was a tough year to get elected.
It was a very tough year, especially for those in the minority party. No question about it. But I think you've hit on a couple of very important topics, and that is in Lower Fairfield County, we're sort of in this together. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, it really isn't so much about the party, but it's about the people that come together, work together for some very serious issues, because for so many decades, Lower Fairfield County was not front and center of a lot of the topics, debates, and funding from Hartford. And now it's been recognized that it's a critical component to the future and the health and the economy for the state of Connecticut. And I think a good example is how many of us, which by the way, not being new to the process, having been in the House of Representatives for the last 12 years, I'm coming to this position not brand new, but also with some of the experience and some of the knowledge of what the big issues are and what our needs are for Lower Fairfield County. But it's an example is how many of us requested to serve on the Transportation Committee. In my case, it's only been in the last couple of years, and I'm hoping that, and we'll know shortly, that will also be the case for the next 2 years as well. But we come together with the same positions, and when we do that as a group, we are heard a little more strongly.
My particular state senator is Senator McKinney, who is the minority leader of the Senate.
He is indeed, and a very strong and articulate spokesman in the General Assembly. So I'm very much looking forward to working with him. And as you said, both sides of the political aisle. You can't get a lot done unless you work with everyone. And establishing good relationships, to me, is just paramount. And oftentimes I've crafted legislation and given it to the Democratic chair of that committee and allowed them to take the credit for it, and so that it gets passed. And that's the bottom line, is getting things done.
That's so smart, because I got involved with the legislature, when I was very early on, when I became president of the League in Weston, League of Women Voters. Mm-hmm. And I realized I wasn't particularly interested in so much in what went on in Weston for the League of Women Voters, because nothing much happens in Weston. But I saw it as a 3-tier organization, like government. And I said, maybe I should use my professional skills as a city planner to the end of supporting the State League in what they do up in Hartford.
Right. Well, the league is, and the leagues in the various towns, going from representing 2 towns to 7 is the most interesting situation. And I think that my relationships with the various leagues have been very good ones, and I've been a member myself for many years and was involved in a number of their activities. A lot of their studies go on oftentimes to change the community in which they participate in, and it for on so many different levels, and as you said, on a statewide basis as well. Mm-hmm. So and people should know that it's just not an organization of women. There are many men that are members of it as well, because they enjoy going through that process, the investigatory process, and then being able to contribute those ideas to the town and, as you said, to the state as well. So I work very closely with our leagues. In fact, we have several meetings already on schedule coming up in the next year to work with the various town leagues, and they include, of course, the various elected officials in the community as well. You know, that the bill process is interesting. People should know that we have a 2-year legislative process. This is the year in the odd numbered years, 2009, when every legislator could put in their own bill proposals. And oftentimes those come from ideas that you get. I already have a folder of ideas that people have given me along the campaign trail, listening to what the needs are locally. That's probably the most significant area. Beyond that, you may have a personal issue that you want to take forward, or different departments of the state of Connecticut will put forward their proposals, whether there's changes that needed in running their different departments. The governor's office can put in proposals. The committees themselves may have issues they've been following. So all into this hopper come about 4,000 bills or bill proposals. And from that, they're pulled and together. And oftentimes, if a particular issue comes up many different times, whether by a legislature or a committee or a department, that's sure to get probably a high priority on that. And the committee chairs and the committees that run very well will include the ranking members. So there's 2 chairmen in Connecticut. There's a House chairman and there's a Senate chairman. And there's a ranking member from the House and Senate on the minority party. Those 4 individuals should be running that committee. Some committees are more partisan, and you'll find that they don't include the minority party in a lot of their decision making or their screening of those bills. But the committees that run really well are the ones where all 4 individuals come together. They will go through this big pile of bills that come to their committee. So in other words, if you propose something having to do with education, it'll go to the education committee. And if that education bill has a financial aspect to it, it also then will be referred to the Appropriations Committee or other committees if it's a tax issue to the Finance Committee. And they'll plow through those and give as many bills as they think is appropriate. Some will be better at doing that than others, and they'll hold a public hearing. That's a requirement. And at that public hearing, the public and the agencies and all can come to testify in favor or against, and that's recorded. Once that process is over, then those 4 individuals, or 2 if they're the chairman, and they want to decide which bills are going to be brought for an actual vote out of committee. Those will be voted on what's called a JF deadline, Joint Favorable Report deadline. At that point, if they make it out of that committee and are not sent to another committee that must review it as well, by the way, even if it doesn't have a financial issue, but say it also is a public health issue, it will have to be reviewed by other committees as well that might have an interest in that bill. With all that being done, then it goes to the House or Senate floor. Unlike Congress, we have both Senate and House represented on each committee, which makes it, I think, much better, more streamlined. In Congress, in Washington, D.C., you have a separate process for the House and the Senate. So you can have similar bills going on the same track, but they all have to then come together in another committee to work the language out. I think our process is better because you go through the process once. But where it is voted on first depends on if it is a House bill or a Senate bill, how it's initiated. I would say that in the first few years that I was in the legislature, I got a remarkable number of bills passed, some with even my name on it, even being in the minority. They happen to be education bills, something that I started in the political arena as a result of my passion for educational excellence, both running on the local board of education.
We know, yes, folks, and this is a very, you were on the state board of.
Yes, in fact, one of the first things I did it's interesting that Judy Friedman started her state Senate position 22 years ago. Well, 22 years ago, I happened to speak up at a school board public hearing and at a finance public hearing, and someone decided that whatever I said was of interest to them. So that night, I actually got a phone call from someone asking me to run for a local board of education. And that's how I actually got started. I wasn't a member of any particular party. I was an unaffiliated, but in order to run, you had to join a